why you're not making progress in a language. So I'm not going to waste your time. The feeling of not making progress in the language you're learning is really, really frustrating. And it can be something, I think it's something that basically, I know I certainly felt it constantly when I was beginning learning a language. So my promise by the end of this video is you will know how to make progress in a language and what's holding you back, so that you can kind of move forward with learning without the kind of anxiety and frustration. So if you do like this kind of educational content on language learning, definitely subscribe, and I've got a link to my free Discord in the description. But with that said, let's go. So why aren't you making progress in the language you're learning? There only really is one reason why you're not making progress, and it's because you're not following the skill matrix. So this diagram I've made is the skill matrix, and it's basically how you go from not knowing something to being able to do it. So if you're not making progress, you're not actually doing the steps in this thing to become better at the language, because of course a language is a bunch of individual skills. You've got a bunch of different words you need to learn. You need to learn how to use them together. You need to learn grammar rules and etc, etc. So there's a lot of learning, no shit. So if you're not actually going through all of these steps, as I'll outline, you're not actually going to be able to learn anything. And yeah, this is how you learn a skill. I know this probably hasn't been taught to you before, but this is basically the path. So you start off with not being able to do something. Obviously, everyone is at least at this stage, because you can't be worse than that. You don't know how to do something. You learn the theory of how to do it. You do it yourself poorly. You do it a lot and get better, and then you're finally able to do it. So in the context of language learning, it could be not knowing colors in a language, for example. You don't know them. You learn the theory of them. So you learn them, you make a list of them all. You try and use flashcards, and you eventually do it badly. You can remember them once. Then you do it a few times, you put them in sentences, you speak about them, you answer questions, etc. And you do it a lot, and over time, eventually, you know the colors in a language, and you could say them if someone asked you. Like if you asked me, what is purple in Italian? I could easily tell you it's viola, because I, use that word a bunch of different times. And I learned it years ago, and I've used it a bunch. So now that we know how you actually go about learning a skill, let's talk about why you're kind of messing up with the language you're learning. So if you're finding you're not making progress, somewhere along here, there's a mistake happening. So here's what I want you to do. Pick a skill you need to work on. You need to actually be precise about which skill you need to work on. Obviously, if you're learning any language, say you're learning French, for example, your goal is to learn French, but that's too broad, if you know what I mean. You need to actually pick something to learn on, because if I say, although you want to speak French, you can't just learn French. Like that, you can't download French. You need to learn all of the micro skills within the French language. You need to learn all of these different words and how to use them, etc, etc. So pick one micro skill or one little topic within the French language. It might be, if you're a complete beginner, it might be basic greetings. If you're more advanced, it might be something like verb conjugation. If you don't even know what to work on, that's okay. I want you to go find a beginner's guide to learning French, or, and the second option is probably better, find a French YouTuber, or whatever language you're learning, find a YouTuber that is a native speaker and teaches about the language, and they'll probably have some kind of playlist. If they don't, subscribe to them and find videos on basic stuff, and just pick a topic in the language to learn. So yeah, that's the solution if you don't even know what to do. But pick a skill you need to work on. Identify where you are on the skill matrix. So if you pick, for example, colors or whatever, and you have no idea any of them, you're probably at the can't do something stage. If you're, for example, learning verb conjugation, if you don't know what that is, don't worry. If you do know what that is, you understand it can be very frustrating, particularly in languages that are very different from English. You're probably at the kind of learn how to do it, but you can't really do it on your own stage yet. And yeah, so long story short, you just need to identify where you are on this kind of thing with that particular skill. And then I want you to write down the skill and what you actually need to do to progress. So if you're at the stage where you've written down all the colors in the language, for example, you've taken notes, you've downloaded a flashcard stack, but you can't really remember them, then you know you're at this learn how to do it stage. So you are capable, you have the knowledge written down, for example, you just can't really remember. If I asked you what a color was, there's a good chance you wouldn't be able to tell me, basically. So you're at the stage where you need to kind of pull it off once. And then you know that this is where you need to be working on. We've gone from, I want to learn French or whatever language, this really broad topic, to all the way down to, I need to learn this topic. And then we've taken it even closer to, I need to learn this topic, and this is where I am in the process of learning it. So you know that now, because you're here, you need to pull it off once, which means you just need to practice until you can actually do it once from memory, and then you just keep doing it again until you can do it. And of course, once you've done it, execute, which just means do it, and then tick it off as well. Ticking it off is really good for kind of your kind of growth mindset and mental health, because you can see that you've actually achieved what you wrote down you said you were going to do. So the reason I put a circle around this one, by the way, is because not grinding something enough, I think, can be a really common source of failure and frustration. It's not too difficult to learn the theory for most things in a language. If you think about it, learning words is not that difficult. Like if you had to learn one word, it would be pretty easy. If I asked you to learn 10,000 words, which is probably the minimum for what you need to be able to kind of chat poorly, that's obviously more difficult. So learning the theory is pretty straightforward. Doing it is not too difficult. But yeah, doing it a lot, I feel people kind of try and do it once and then move on, and then they forget it, and it's like, no wonder you don't know it. You need to do it a lot to actually memorize it into your brain. If you remembered things from doing them once, you have a whole bunch of useless junk in your brain. That's why your brain doesn't remember things you only do once. So I think not grinding something enough is a really common source of frustration, and if you want to do that more, I'd highly recommend you use flashcards. I've already made a video on that. I'll have it pop up on the screen right now, but using flashcards is a great way to kind of memorize words. If it's more of like a grammatical problem, you need to focus on verb conjugation or something like that, for example, output is really good. So giving yourself English practice sentences to translate into that language, or from that language into English, either way, that's really good practice for kind of memorizing grammar rules and stuff, because you see the relationship between words. If you need any help with any of these things, by the way, comment down below and I'll give you a hand, and I can find resources for you in your language if you'd like. There's also a few common handbrakes I've found to making progress. So outside of this thing, I'm just going to address a few more common problems. So fixed mindset, which is basically, if you don't know what the fixed mindset is, most people have it. It's basically, you think you can't really make any progress. You think progress is kind of attached to, talent, luck, etc. Like you can't really change your ability in anything. And because you think you can't really change your ability through hard work, you're not really incentivizing yourself. You're not motivated at all to do any actual productive work because you just don't think it will work, which of course means you're not going to do any work, which means you won't get anywhere. So the solution to this is to adopt the opposite of fixed mindset, which is the growth mindset. And the reason you should adopt the growth mindset is because this is the correct mindset to have. The way you actually improve at something is by putting effort in. That's how you get results. Results are the product of the effort you put in. And if you don't think this, you have no reason to actually put effort in, because why would you put effort into something that's completely useless, that doesn't make any sense? So yeah, that is a common problem. People don't think they're getting anywhere. Just remember, guys, you will make progress if you put effort in. And if you need help with any of that, I'd highly recommend you check out the rest of the videos on my channel, which are all about other specific problems. Poor organization is also a common handbrake to making progress in a language. If you haven't set yourself clear tasks to do and clear times to do them, you'll procrastinate, you'll put off language learning, you will, just do random things here and there that aren't particularly useful. You'll kind of half-ass your way through it, and you won't really make as much progress. I know it's a little bit more effort to, make a habit tracker or anything like that, but it's more than twice the result. So I'd highly recommend you do it. I do have a video on habit trackers. If you want to check that out, I'll have it pop up on the screen right now, and you can check it out afterwards. But yeah, a habit tracker is basically, if you haven't, you probably know what it is, but if you don't, I'll say it really quickly. It's like you have all of the days of the week listed out, and then you have a bunch of habits. It could be like gym, sleep. In the context of language learning, it might be flashcards, read one chapter, etc. And you just tick it off for each day as you do it, and you have like a streak. And it's not really even about the streak. It's just about holding yourself accountable. And that's super good for staying organized and making sure you're doing habits. And planning it into your schedule as well. So if you want to set a specific time of day to do a certain habit, like maybe you want to read a page before bed, that can be good as well, particularly if you're busy. Low ROI tasks. If you have no idea what that means, I'm about to tell you something super valuable. ROI literally means return on investment. It's used in a lot of different fields, like investing for one, but it's also in language learning. Basically, return on investment means what you get out of what you give. So for example, if you're doing flashcards to try and memorize words, that's a high ROI task because it's helping you remember them. If you are, I'm trying to think of something that's not stupid. If you're watching YouTube shorts on polyglots flexing how many languages they know to try and get better at whatever language you're learning, that is a very, very low ROI task because it's going to give you absolutely nothing. So a lot of people, I think, put too much time into tasks that don't actually give them much leverage. They don't help you learn your language very much. Like, as I just said, there's plenty of other examples. So you need to stop putting your time and effort into low value tasks and put all of your time that you spend language learning into the tasks that give you the most return in learning that language. So your schedule or your habit tracker should be full of high ROI tasks. Some examples are flashcards, so you can have flashcard decks for words you're learning. You can also download them if you're using digital flashcards, which I'd highly recommend. As in, like, what I mean by download is like you search Russian colors or whatever you want to learn, and it already exists on the internet if you're using in whatever like website you're using, like STUDYSTACK or Anki. I'll have STUDYSTACK in the description. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like you can search the deck and download it. You don't even have to make your own flashcards. Oh yeah, check out my video on high ROI tasks as well. It's a little bit complicated, but filling your schedule with things that are going to help you more, like reading, watching a vlog with subtitles by a native speaker, flashcards, etc. Those will get you so much further, even with less work. If you fill your schedule with high ROI tasks and do half the work, you might get 3 times the result. Like it's that crazy. As far as trash learning input goes, I basically mean a bad teacher or it doesn't match your style. This is kind of an interesting one. Although, how best to explain this? By bad teacher, I mean part of that is watching like a native speaker and not like YouTube shorts of bullshit. Like make sure you're actually watching high ROI language learning content. But if you're watching, for example, stuff that isn't actually really educational, you're not. How best? I'm trying to figure out a way to explain what I mean. Let me just go to the solution first. So learning style, people have different ways of learning. If you find you learn better from reading, you should read more website guides. If you find you learn better from listening, you should watch more YouTube videos. That one's pretty straightforward. By find a good teacher, I literally mean go onto YouTube, for example, find a native speaker, subscribe/save them, and then have them teach you. I'd also recommend probably at least 2 teachers on YouTube, just because some people have little mistake, not necessarily little mistakes if they're native speakers, but if they have little idiosyncrasies to their character, you will adopt them. Whereas having like a broader palette of education you're consuming is a better thing overall. But yeah, that's kind of what I mean by trash learning input. It's hard to explain, but yeah, have a few different teachers and make sure you're trying to use your learning style as best as possible. And a bonus is if you do need any help with anything at all, I think I've already said this, comment down below and I'll give you guys a hand. But yeah, my promise at the start of this video was I would teach you what's holding you back from making progress and how you can actually boost your progress. But yeah, I think I've kept that one. If you do like this kind of educational content on language learning, definitely hit the subscribe button. It makes me feel better about all the effort I put in for free. Links in the description to my Discord and to my website if you want to check that out. I have coaching. Yeah, and have a good one.